Well, Rodney, marriage is a part of sexuality for so many people. It has a role to play. And so let's talk about that. Of what role does marriage play in a biblical view of sexuality? And how can we encourage people into a deeper understanding of marriage as a sacred covenant and not just a place where they get to have sex because now it's okay?
When I got married at 21 and Tracy was 19, you guys, I thought I was a love expert. I really thought,
I'm sure you were, Rodney. Sure.
I'm a love expert. Boy, was I wrong.
You are an expert on many things. It's true.
Yes, there was a lot I needed to learn about love and about human sexuality. And, as you grow and mature, even in your sexual relationship with your partner over time, you realize that it's way more than just sex. It's about connecting with the heart of the person. It's about learning to be mature, which is about to honor the person, not just in your words or in your actions, but even in sexuality. How do we bring honor? How do we bring pleasure? How do we make this a meaningful experience for both parties involved? And it can look different. And so, I think just being able to communicate, this is what I would say to any individuals that are moving toward marriage. The better you can articulate about your own sexual journey, but even about how you just talk about human sexuality, how you talk about your sexual connection with each other, the frequency, about what brings pleasure to you, what you're uncomfortable with, how was that experience? Just articulation of this is our world that we're building together, just like in anything else, just like in money. The more you can communicate about money where it doesn't become conflict, it just becomes about, oh, we're getting on the same page. We're having the same focus, the same energy. We're having a beautiful shared experience with money. Sexuality can be that same thing too, if you have a good framework to take into it. Is this working for both of us? Are we communicating about it? Are we staying within the framework that's healthy for us as a covenant relationship? And again, it's not just surviving or you get to. It should be that you want to, and that you're bringing meaning, purpose, and joy to one another. And it's not that every sexual experience is always on a scale of 1 to 10. We're not saying it's always going to be a 10 in marriage, but it never becomes a negative experience, right? And this is what I love about Cliff and Joyce Pinner in marriage. They talk about it never letting it go beyond something that's negative for either partner,
Hmm.
but it's just about something that's meaningful, or we're just doing it out of care for Tracy or care for Rodney, or it's higher on the scale that time. So this is really important, just about our communication, and that's what I think really enforces the covenant. And for me, whenever I am sexually aroused, and at 57, it changes, John. I know you're 27, I'm 57, so I'm just going to tell you, arousal changes. But as I grew in my recovery, whenever I felt arousal triggered by anything, I would realize, oh, that's something maybe negative if I take it this way. And God has encouraged me to take it this way because I was married. It's the scripture in Romans: clothe yourself with the Lord Jesus Christ, and do not think about, fulfilling the lust of your youthful desire. And so, as a young man, I really realized, oh, I'm aware of this, but my covenant is the place where I get to connect that
Hmm.
and would redirect that to a healthy context. And I
Hmm.
think this is where it's so important to be self-aware and be working in your relationship, that what you're building is meaningful for both of you, and not just out of obligation or out of somehow this is what we have to do because we're Christians. But I think covenant relationship is the better way, and I choose that.
Yeah. I think it's important to recognize that marriage, if I'm married, is the current context in which I'm learning to exercise godly biblical sexuality, but it is not the whole of my sexuality. And that's important for, Rodney and I to remember as married guys, because there is a better than 50% chance that one day we will be single again. We could have spouses who leave, or a marriage that ends in divorce, and Lord willing, that never happens. But there's a 50-50 shot that our spouse dies first. And so for a majority of us listening, even if we're married, we may be single again. And at that moment,
Right.
we don't cease to be sexual. We're now going
That's
to
correct.
exercise our biblical sexuality in a new context. And so I think to kind of see God's creation of sexuality in our bodies out beyond the marriage, not outside of, beyond the marriage context, but looking at how in this current context is God inviting me to discover more of myself, more of him, more of what relationship looks like, and to enter into that self-serving, other-centered way of love that Jesus gave to us. That now gives some meaning to what I'm doing, and not just, well, how good is our sex life? Because I think that is what sometimes couples can fall back to, is just, well, that's how we define healthy sexuality in our marriage, just how good or how frequent is the sex. And I would advocate, say, it is important to have a healthy sex life in your marriage, but that is not the whole context of sexuality in your marriage or for you as a human being. So just keeping kind of that bigger context on what it means to be sexual, even if I'm married, I think will help all of us continue to learn and develop and grow in this area.
I know that I don't have, a lot of lived experience in marriage. In fact, I have none as a single. But just to say, I think I'd love to highlight maybe two or three things of, like, porn had trained me that marriage was about my pleasure, about male pleasure, and about, like, the satisfaction of me and the objectification of women.
Getting my needs met.
My needs met. And I think what's so beautiful, Julie Slattery at the summit just a couple years back, oh my goodness. If you guys haven't listened to it, please go back, find this session. I'm going to try to, like, reiterate it a little bit here, but she got up there and she began reading from 1 Corinthians 13 saying, love is patient in the bedroom. And she'd have the crowd recite in the bedroom. Love is kind in the bedroom. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud in the bedroom. It does not dishonor others, to your language, Rodney, of honor, integrity, respect. It is not self-seeking in the bedroom. It is not easily angered in the bedroom. It keeps no record of wrongs in the bedroom. Like, she just kept going on, and she had the crowd so deeply engaged in this conversation. And I thought it was so profound. Like, I had never maybe considered the invitation, the high calling of love in the realm of sexuality, in the realm of a covenant marriage, in the realm of sex, in that covenant. And I'm sitting there going, oh my goodness, I've been thinking about it so wrong. And to think about, phileo, agape, eros, there's different types of love, but even from the sense of eros or agape type love, the highest call is a self-giving and a self-receiving. And now as a single, I'm thinking about marriage of what a gift my body can be for my future spouse. And I hope that she sees it in the same way, that her body could be a gift to me. And it's this, again, mutual giving and receiving, which sounds a whole lot like the Trinity to me. Like, the Trinity is a relationship of mutual self-giving and receiving perfect love. And my dad, I have two brothers who are married. I'm not married, and I have a younger brother who's not married. There's four of us total. But he's been quick to now name this as the conversation of sexuality has become more normal in our family. My dad has been so quick to say, you cannot treat your wife's body as a masturbation tool. That is not what God is inviting you into, and that is not the highest form of sexuality in the covenant of marriage. She is not for your pleasure. Again, it must be a mutual giving and receiving. And I think, unfortunately, whether that's the script of our culture or the script of pornography, like, women have been so viewed objectively that as if, like, it's their duty to give their body to their husband. And I'm going, no. Like, that invitation in 1 Corinthians is for both. It is for the man and the wife, both spouses, to be this self-sacrificial love. Like, that's what Christ calls us into, right? The highest form of love is to lay down your life, to give your sexuality, to lay down your sexuality for one another in the context of marriage. It's not about taking. It's about giving, and it's about receiving in a way that's honoring and respectful for both parties.
John, Eugene Peterson writes that in the Message translation. I think it's 1 Corinthians 7:4. Marriage is not a place to stand up for your rights. Marriage is a decision to serve one another. And then he adds, whether in bed or out of bed. I
So
love that.
good.
I'm like, way to go,
Yeah.
Eugene. And in this context, I think that maturity is what we're talking about here. As you mature, you worry about the well-being of the other person. And and I think it's important though here not to demonize pleasure. Not all pleasure is evil, and taking pleasure in your spouse isn't evil.
Hmm.
It's actually a gift when done correctly. So there is a sense about being mature and about enjoying your partner, taking pleasure in your partner, and your partner taking pleasure in you. And communication and resolving conflict really, in all areas of our life, I think set a good bedrock for now communicating about having this area really work well for both people in marriage.
So good.
And it can look different. What if my partner was in a car wreck and she was quadriplegic, and now I have to we have to communicate, and that's a piece of our pie, and now I have to steward that aspect of my marriage. There's so many factors that kind of come
Yeah.
into play here when it comes to how we're going to navigate this.
Well, you both mentioned Dan Allender, and we just had him on the podcast time-wise as we're recording, but for you listening, it's going to have been a couple of months ago. You may recall he said that in intercourse, we can experience 400 times the hit of pleasure, of that dopamine, than in just a normal day. And that's not evil. That's God's design.
Come on.
Now, the way we use that, or the way we go about achieving that, could certainly be evil, but the ability is God's plan. And so how do we look at the goodness of God in the context that God's invited us to use it in? And that's, I think, what marriage becomes. So